Tartah is in the hospital room in the middle of the night, and he did not choose to be there. He missed his very home because he lost his cap, and the dock guard would not let him board without it. So he retraced his steps. The hospital was the last place he had not checked. He came back looking for a cap and found Coco feverish in the bed instead. The doctors are down the hall preparing for burn victims from a fire across town. Kefri is at that same fire. Coco, even though she's sick, she was the one who told Kefri to go help out. Nobody's coming through that door anytime soon. Now, here's what makes this moment so carefully constructed. Tartah is not just any kid who stumbled into the wrong room. He is Mr. Noah's grandson. He grew up in a magic stationery's shop surrounded by dyes, inks, and the ingredients behind them. He already knew what tranquil leaf was used for. He used it on Coco's ankle the very first time they met, and he knows that a lot of those same dye ingredients cross over into medicine. That knowledge is already his. What he cannot do because of the silver wash syndrome is tell those unlabeled hospital vials apart by color. His grandfather labels everything in the shop for exactly that reason. The hospital labels nothing. And in this world, the Pact means no one can cast a healing spell to make any of this easier. So Tartah, standing in front of a cabinet full of medicine that could help Coco, he knows what is in those vials. He just cannot see it. And that is exactly the problem that Coco, feverish in the bed, is about to help him solve. What's good, everyone? It's your girl Mel, and we are about to jump into chapters 16 and 17 of Witch Hat Atelier, the start of the Silver Side arc. Let's get ready to jump into it. The Pact, established before the story begins, explained back in chapter 1, forbids magic from being cast upon the human body. Healing spells are not just rare, they are gone. The witches of healing craft were among the last to resist, as we learned in my previous video, and when they lost their magic, their memories were all wiped away. Why? Because this is what the Knights Morales in the Great Hall does. Chapter 15 opened on exactly that history. That is why the hospital in this world operates without healing magic entirely. Doctors, herbs, medicine, that is what this place runs on. The Pact made sure of that a long time ago. So when Coco collapses from exhaustion and ends up in the hospital and Kefri can ease the air in the room with his water magic, cool the temperature a little to help her breathe easier and to get her fever down. But that is actually the most that he can do with magic. He apologizes to Coco, and that is, again, the limitation of what he can do. When the call comes for help because someone came into the hospital and they recognize that Kefri's a witch, so they beg for his help. Kefri tries his best to stay. He says he cannot leave, and it is Coco, again, with the fever, barely awake, who tells him, go. She says, helping people is what witches do. That is who she is, even flat on her back and sick with a bad fever in the hospital. He leaves because she gave him permission to. The author stacked up this setup deliberately. Let's think about it. The Pact removes the magical shortcut. Tartah's silver wash removed the conventional one because, of course, he ends up back in the room with Coco. The hospital labels nothing. 2 limitations, 1 situation, no easy way out. What is left is exactly what these chapters argue, that limitation is not where the story ends. It is where it begins. So let's talk about what Tartah is working against in this situation. And before we get to what Tartah actually does, we need to understand what he has been told, what's been said to him. When he hits a wall at that cabinet where he's trying to get the herb that Coco needs to calm down her fever or to reduce her fever, we get a flashback, not action, not magic, just voices. People from his past telling him what silver wash means. But what does it mean for Tartah? it presents him with a limitation. His ability to practice complex magic or practice any kind of magic, it just will not happen for him. They even said as a stationary, he will never really excel, that there are things because of the silver watch that he can't do. That flashback is doing thematical work. The voices are not just backstories, they are internal obstacles at this point. And the author does a great job of putting these in there to show you like how Tartah is dealing with the weight of this situation with what he's been told versus what he needs to accomplish to help Coco. The belief that Tartah carries about what he'll never be able to do is there. It's upfront and it's right in his face exactly when he needs to help someone the most. And the whole arc of these 2 chapters is the story taking that belief apart, Coco making something possible for him. Because here's what Tartah actually does, right? When he realizes, what Coco is going through, he picks up the vapor bubble, that same basic tool Tedia showed Coco in the very first pages of the series when she first got to the atelier. And he starts eliminating vials one by one. He's trying to use the vapor bubble to do this. Take a look at it on the manga panel. He knows which ones crystallize without water. So yes, Tartah is going through a series of steps right now. He knows which ones glow in the moonlight, which herbs, which ones carry a smell, everything he spent years memorizing because he could not rely on color. So he relied on his other senses, right? In the stationery with his grandfather. This is what makes the next few minutes possible. He gets it down to 3 particular types of herbs. So we can call it medicines since we're in the hospital now. The last 3 look identical to him, but he cannot cross that line alone. And that is when Coco offers him words of encouragement about magic. Sick as she is, she understands at the same time that Tartah is struggling and she is here to help. Of course, she is here to help. This is where the author pulls together everything. And I read this sequence more than once because of how cleanly it works. And on every level at the same time, Coco explains the core mechanics of this magic system to Tartah, with the sigils and everything. And she starts to, of course, draw, and she's explaining the signs to him. And she tells him, change the signs in a sigil, and you can change what a spell does. So she's teaching Tartah at the same time. The form follows the symbol. Magic does not push back. It listens. This is not just an in-world lesson. This is the author stating that thematical argument of these chapters out loud through Coco's mouth. Your limitation is not permanent. It is a form. Change the form. She takes the earth sigil used to drill tunnels and crush boulders into sand and reverse its sign. In reverse, the logic inverts. Instead of breaking things apart, it should help recognize and distinguish. She is building a recognition tool out of a destruction spell designed specifically for someone whose world looks silver so that the knowledge Tartah already has becomes something he can actually see and use. She is too sick to draw it cleanly. The spell falls, and rather than either of them stopping there, Tartah picks up the pen. He tells her he does not know much about drawing, but he knows balance. This is his craft. He studies what Coco drew, asks if the signs can go on the sides too, not just top and bottom. She explains why that adjustment would help. She tells him if you make it your own, it becomes your original magic, so try it. He tries it and it works. I need you to feel what just happened in this moment, what just happened there between those two, and what just happened with Tartah, because Tartah did not follow instruction. He took Coco's foundation, applied his own understanding of his own craft, and produced something that did not exist before. And this is not a tutoring scene. This is collaboration. 2 people building something neither one could have built alone. And the author constructed the entire situation to make that moment necessary. He runs to the storehouse, holds up the seals, and for the first time, things come into focus. Every herb, whatever, he spent years memorizing is right there in front of him. He finds the tranquil leaf. And here's the other thread the author is running in parallel the entire time, because while Coco is explaining reverse signs to Tartah, something was clicking for her. If reversing the sign reverses the spell, then the same principle should apply to the forbidden spell that ended up petrifying her petrifying her mother. The seal from the picture book with her mother, that spell, or the spell that turned her mother to stone, reverse signs the opposite effect. So she's, educating herself at the same time. She does not say it out loud. It's a private thought in a hospital bed, but this is the seed the author planted right here in this moment, in the moment of Coco teaching someone else, because she worked out the answer to her own biggest question by explaining magic to Tartah. I read these panels 3 times. The author is, Shirahama Sensei is at her best in writing these stories, and particularly in this particular chapter. Between 16 and 17, she did a marvelous job between these 2 people, and in itself of progressing the story a little more. There was no better chapters to put together than 16 and 17, in my opinion. These chapters close out carefully, and the volume ends. If you're reading by volume 3 ends on something that reframes everything we just felt. The nurse catches Tartah in the storehouse and scolds him, but then he confirms he was right. And the nurse confirms he was right too. He was searching for the tranquil leaf. And that was the correct choice for Coco's fever. She asked if he's been studying apothecary, noticed that his hat, puts it together. In that small exchange, Tartah gets something he has not often received, someone treating his knowledge and his path as a combination and not a compromise. Kiefer comes back to the hospital in the middle of the night and finds Tartah asleep right beside Coco's bed in a chair, leaning over on her bed, sleep as well. So he puts a coat over him, moves Coco's hair from her face, sits down on the other side as well. He's in thought at the moment. If magic were simple, there would be no suffering. Closes the loop on something the Pact set up at the top of these 3 chapters. Magic has limits. Those limits cause people, and the 2 kids in this room found their way through the limitations anyway, or around the limitations anyway. By morning, Coco is recovering. She thanks Tartah for, his help, for his medicine. And in my opinion, I love the moments between Tartah and Coco. And for me, 16 and 17 is all about them, all about those 2. And I saw them on the pages and in the dialogue and in everything and in the spectacle, in the chapter. They became a little closer. He deflects it, he deflects her thank you a little bit and tells her, she is the one who deserves the thanks. That exchange is small, and it's exactly right. They both, work this together. They both know what happened in that room, and they both gave it their all. But before they leave, there's something. There's one more thing. Tartah tries to bring up the bright light he saw the other day at Mr. Noah's shop. He tries one more time, to bring this up to Kiefer. He asks about it, and Kiefer goes blank, and it just doesn't register. He's like, bright light. And Kiefer is just like, bright light. Tartah looks at, kind of looks at this and just starts to think, well, question himself or second guess himself by saying, oh, he must have imagined it. But the author let us see what Tartah does not fully let himself see, that something about this does not add up. That thread is not closed. It's just kind of like carried quietly. And so Tartah second guessed himself a little bit when Kiefer was like, bright light. So Tartah just lets it go again for the moment, but he promises to carve Coco a pen, and he's going to bring it to her himself. He's going to cross the river on his own. That promise is built entirely out of what she gave him in that room. And that is the opportunity to somewhat, use magic in some fashion, which was really great for him. You know, on the journey home, Coco finally tells Kefri about the nightmares that she's been having. He cannot fix them. Magic for sleep is also forbidden. But he does tell her he'll find a way, or they'll find a way to deal with her nightmares. And of course, Coco is leaving Call with a little bit of hope. With the magic she worked with and the sigil she worked with Tartah, the reversal piece, she has some hope now that she could possibly do a reversal to the forbidden spell to like free her mom. They return to the atelier. Teddy and Richie come out running. A god is waiting, and the reunion is brief, and it earns every second. And chapter 17 closes out with the introduction of a new brimmed cap. Yes, the brim caps are planning and plotting, and the next brim cap is up. Those wickedy witches. Yes, the brim caps are next. So chapter 16 and 17, you know what? They were some really great chapters, and we got some relationship building between Coco and Tartah. And I thought it was really wholesome and really great to have in these chapters. Tartah learned what he was capable of. Coco found the thread that leads back to her mother. And this arc closed the way the best arcs do, with more clarity than it started with, and a door already opening to something big. If you made it to the end of this video, thanks for hanging in there with me. What do you think about the relationship building between Coco and Tartah? And what do you think, or what do you believe the brim caps are up to next? Since we're going to have the introduction of a new brim cap starting in chapter 18, because they are definitely planning and plotting. Do not forget to like, subscribe, and comment. I'll meet you at the next Pointy Hat discussion. Thanks for stopping by and watching.